Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Dustina. This is Spiritually Boujee Astrology, and we're going to take a look at the astrological transits of April 29th to May 5th. Before we do no type of recap or look ahead, got a couple of little things. One, I said at the beginning of March to get us through eclipse season, to get us through the shit show Mercury retrograde, and knowing that eclipse season started in March, the pre-shadow stage of Mercury retrograde was in March, but now we're through all of it. I said that I would keep my coaching sessions, my hour-long and my 90-minute sessions on discount through the month of April. Mercury retrograde is done. Eclipse season is over with. Yes, we are in the aftermath of what is going to lead us to, but the dynamic, the hardcore dynamic timeline, that timeline is over. So we're in the last few days of me being at that discounted price. My hour-long sessions, which are normally $50, got lowered down to $35. My 90-minute sessions that are normally $75 got lowered down to $50. And if you are wanting to book at that discounted rate, if you're wanting to get gift certificates or anything at that discounted rate, you need to get those purchased by the end of the month, because on May 1st, my prices are going back up to full price. There's that. Number two, in previous episode, I had specifically asked for you guys to tell me what platform you like me doing my lives on. Through the Mercury retrograde, I was doing 2 interactive Zooms a week. However, what I want to start doing is like restructuring part of my schedule moving forward. And I will do 1 interactive Zoom and 1 Facebook Live a week, because a lot of you were very overwhelming. Again, I want Facebook. Okay, not a problem. But now I need to know what nights of the week. DM me, put it in the comments section. However you like to communicate with me is fine. But I need to know what nights of the week between Monday and Friday you prefer those sessions to happen, whether it's the live or the interactive Zoom. Whatever the top 2 answers are, one of those nights will be used for Zoom. The other night will be used for Facebook. I have clients in over 15 different countries, and that's a lot of different time zones. So I need to make sure that I have flexibility from morning to evening time to be able to accommodate more people on my appointment schedule. But I also still like doing the interactive stuff. I still like doing the lives because I like having that camaraderie with my clients. And a lot of you take advantage of that in a normal way. And that's the whole idea. I want you to be able to feel like you can take advantage of that. Not everybody has the ability to pay like for a full reading, but they just want a quick question answered. So hopping on the Zooms or hopping on the lives are super important and helpful for them. So again, I need to know in the comments section this week what we prefer moving forward. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about the aftermath of what's happened over the last 2 weeks. There's been a lot of energy building up to that full moon in Scorpio. That full moon in Scorpio was in a square to Pluto, while also going through the end of the Mercury retrograde, while also coming into this Mars-Neptune conjunction. Now, to be clear, I'm recording this on Sunday morning. The Mars-Neptune conjunction has not gone exact yet. It will actually be coming as a part of how we start the new week. But it is an energy that we're in right now at the time that I'm recording. So it tells me that there was a big part of either a fog setting in for many, many people, or a clarity setting in, depending on the situation, based off of how things have gone over the last 2 weeks. Now, that full moon in Scorpio was in a square to Pluto. Many of us either left that full moon feeling very emotionally triggered about the past, about wounds, about trauma, about abuse. And it really solidified a certain decision of how certain things were going to go moving forward. For other people, though, it was not a power struggle at all. It was empowerment. And we know moving forward that we are moving in a direction that is going to finally allow for us to overcome certain elements tied to fear. And as we go through parts of this week, we will be moving slowly in certain directions towards overcoming the power struggle, overcoming the past, overcoming trauma, overcoming loss and overcoming fear. A lot of that energy is based off of the fact that we will have our second square to Pluto, and Pluto is going to turn retrograde. In many ways, where we have had frustrations and fear, we're going to start to overcome, walk away from, move away from, and slowly start to edge into a new dynamic, into a new routine, into a new direction, into new commitments, into new ideas. Now, all week, we've been building to the Mars-Neptune conjunction. And there is something very peculiar about that Mars-Neptune conjunction that I'm going to explain in the closing. I'm not going to put in the intro because it's a lot, but I want to be able to explain something to certain people about certain timelines that have been triggered over the last 2 weeks from that. And I feel like it's going to be too much if I put it in the intro, so I'm going to put it in the closing. Mars is the god of war. A lot of the energies as of recent has been going through one of Mars's signs. It's been going through Aries. And as we have gotten through Mars's trek through Pisces, in a lot of ways, there has been needs for healing, deep-seated wounds, things deep below the surface that need to come above, certain amounts of responsibility and accountability. And now, as we're getting closer to the Mars-Neptune conjunction, some people are going to be stepping into something blindly in the start of this week. For some people, there's going to be a fish out of water type of situation. However, some people will be acting and reacting upon lies, fraud, deception. Some of us are going to be reacting to certain medicines. Now, if you've had a medicinal change right around this full moon timeline, you need to be paying a lot of attention to whatever is going on in your body, because you can be reacting in both good and bad ways whenever it comes to the Mars-Neptune thing. So pay attention. Make yourself aware. And if you're going to have a negative reaction, you're going to know within the first few days. If you're having a positive reaction, you will also know that within the first few days. And it will again solidify what's going to be the new thing moving forward, the new parts of your treatment, the new parts of the routine. And I do feel like that's one reason why parts of this energy will be a part of the weekend, and other parts it's going to be a part of like Monday and Tuesday. Because if you have something tied to treatment, like a new medicine that's going to get ordered by the doctor, might not be getting ordered on a Sunday. It might be coming through on Monday. So be aware of like the medicinal element of that. But also know that some of us are going to be very much moving forward inspired to take a leap of faith, to overcome certain fears, to go in a new direction. And once we get into May, every day throughout the month of May, we will be waking up to a new normal. And it will start to solidify every single day. And I've been warning about this for a while. All the shakeups and changes of April are going to lead to a new normal in May. And you'll hear me continuously saying this throughout the month, is that we are in a vibration of setting in a new, hopeful normal, this new beginning, this new territory. There's a couple little things from the last month or so that we need to like do some housekeeping on. And that's meant to kind of get done between Monday and Wednesday. But beyond that, we're going to start moving in a very specific direction. And the thing about Taurus and Taurus placements, fixed placements in general, but especially Taurus, a lot of y'all hear about a Taurus and you think, they're stubborn. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But the other side of that is they are slow to make a long-term decision. That's fixed signs in general, but because most of the transits we're about to talk about are going to be tied to Taurus and Aquarius, I'm really just going to talk about Taurus. So under the bus you go. Slow decisions, slow to take action, slow to do certain things. And for some people, whenever you're like nipping at the bit, I want change, that's annoying. It really can be. But if you look at it in the sense of like where we start to go next is meant to be solidifying and really building a new foundation. Because again, whatever new things came through in the first few months of this year are going to get tested at the end of the year. And I keep reminding you of that. We want a solid foundation. I'm in Oklahoma. We've had a whole bunch of tornadoes this last week. A lot of y'all throughout the United States, you have dealt with a lot of tornadoes this week. So a lot of you are going to understand this right now. You want a solid foundation to make sure that the house is going to survive. There will be tornadoes. There will be testing. A lot of us are going to get real burnt later this year, going into the first of the next year. We have to build a solid foundation now. And every day throughout the month of May is building a new solid foundation, solid footing, and solid ground for what we want to succeed, for what we're going to want to survive future testing. So when I say elements of May are going to be slow, that is not a bad thing this time. We want to slowly build a solid foundation into a new direction, into a new beginning, into new understandings. And as we go through the entire month of May, we will be understanding that, but we are at the start of the new energy going through this week. We're at the start of it. Many of you, you're about to go into a new job. I've had the example of the jobs for a lot of people for a while. Some of you are about to start making new commitments to certain people. Commitments can be relationship. Commitments can also be business partners. You can make commitments to certain members of your family. Oh, I know you got this new job and you need somebody to pick up little Johnny from the school bus. I could pick up little Johnny. You don't even have to ride the school bus. I can pick him up from school. I can pick 3:15. I got it every single day. You just got to get me on the list, baby. And that means parts of the new this week are getting him on the list. Getting Meemaw, Pawpaw, whoever on that list to pick up Johnny for the rest of the school year. Not a long school year. It's the end of April, but it's a necessary thing that we got to do. We're making certain commitments to ourselves, commitments to other people of something that we're going to start to build. And again, it's meant to be a very solid foundation. Know that we're going into something new. We are meant to have new connections, new vibrations, new opportunities, because since the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, the literal vibration of the things around us and the pattern of certain things around us is meant to expand and grow and become more abundant, especially whenever it comes to whatever Taurus rules in your chart. So pay attention to what's starting to come in new this week, because we're going to be solidifying a lot of different things. Be prepared for the new people and the new connections and that new energy that starts to build a bridge over troubled waters. Be aware of that new energy as to how we are going to be inspired to progress from here. Be aware, sorry, be aware that how you're progressing from here can be based off of understanding the truth to certain matters that you were once clouded about. lies, fraud, deception, abuse, trauma. Because we are also, again, moving away from that going into this week. And I will, again, explain a little bit more of that at the closing. If you need to understand it a little bit more, I will be happy to do that. Anyways, moving along. We're going to get in the chart. We're going to get into Monday. Monday, April 29th. I have this right after midnight. Why do I have this right after midnight? Because at midnight, we have that Mars-Neptune conjunction. Again, on Sunday, the day that I'm recording this, we're building to this energy. This energy will still be very much on lock Monday. And there will be some people that they're going to be taking certain actions, knowing that they're going into something that they have never been into before, that they are not seeing clearly, that they do not completely know what they're walking into. And there will be some people on Monday that are going to feel like a fish out of water. I'm preparing you for that, especially if you're going into a new job or you're going into a meeting with somebody, you're looking at something new. And there is meant to be new dynamics that are coming through Sunday for some people. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is the more exact based off of the transits. Okay. So we're right after midnight. Mars, Neptune conjunction. Inspired actions to overcome a lie, overcome a fallacy, overcome certain trauma. There is an action that is being set in, a reaction that is being set in. And for some people, it will be disruptive because it is Mars, and Mars is good for his disruption. And it's either chaotic disruption or pivotal disruption. But given the rest of the transits at hand, I feel like for more people, Mars's conjunction to Neptune is meant to be pivotal disruption, letting us know that something is adjusting and changing, moving forward. Okay. And what also helps is the moon's in Capricorn, and Capricorn's a lot more serious. If the moon was still in Sagittarius during this conjunction, I would probably have a different story, but moon's in Capricorn. Okay, moving along. Monday gets a little bit busy. So the first thing that we get to deal with is Venus. And what is she doing? At 6:32 a.m. Central Standard Time, Venus is going to go into Taurus. Venus is moving into her domicile, her home sign. There's a lot of us that as we go into new places, we're going to quickly feel like we're going into a place where we belong, where we should be. Because a lot of the energy that starts to change is taking planets into their home signs this week. Venus is the first one. Venus is entering Taurus. And again, what I said in the beginning in the intro, we need to be very, very aware of what Taurus represents in our chart, because that's where a lot of the dynamic energy is going to start to set in throughout the month of May. And this is one part of that. The rest of it is going to come whenever Mars changes signs, but that's not happening on Monday. Now, as we continue throughout the day, between 9:30 and 11:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, so it gets to 10:30, the moon is going to sextile Saturn simultaneously. The moon is also making a square to Mercury. The moon is in Saturn's sign. We're in this recognition of authority. We are talking with an authority figure about what steps we take moving forward, about where things are going to go from here, about what's starting to change, about what we do next in our steps, because something has recently changed. Because Mercury just turned direct 4 days ago. So we've had a recent change. And now we have to have a new dynamic of authority, a new dynamic of responsibilities, a new dynamic of roles that is being talked through, guided, and driven towards. There's a lot of planning going on. Now, I will be honest, Mars is still in that conjunction to Neptune. And again, there will be some cloudy and haziness to some of the activities of Monday and Tuesday. And if you didn't pay attention to, we had new hires, or we got an appointment, or we had something going on, Don't be surprised if somebody new shows up on Monday morning and you're not prepared for it. Another way to look at this is you might be coming back to work not knowing that something happened over the weekend, not knowing something that happened last week, and now you're learning about it from the authority figure, you're learning about it from the boss. And again, we're talking about the plan of how we're going to start moving forward from here, about what actions we're taking from here. A lot of planning, a lot of conversations. Not everybody's going to be happy about the conversations, but it is what it is. It's all necessary. All necessary. Okay, moving along. When we get into the afternoon between 4:30 and 6:30 p.m., I got this at 5:30, the moon is going to square Chiron. This is not heavy energy. It's really not. For some people, it's going to have to do with what's gone on throughout the day, like the planning of how we're going to fix something, of how we're going to overcome something, how we're going to heal something moving forward. Moon square Chiron. This might not have anything to do with the day. It might be whenever you come home going, oh, hey, mom, the toaster broke, the microwave broke, something needs fixed. Not heavy energy. Can be annoying, can be a nuisance, but doesn't have to be heavy. And there can be awareness of how something gets fixed after this moment. Now, knowing that we're in so much of the new, don't be surprised if there is something in regards to like the fix is a part of the new energy, or just talking about like how the day has gone and whether you feel okay with it or not. Some people, whenever you're going into a new job or you're going into a new business meeting or you're doing something new, then like you have to have that recap at the end of the day with your loved ones, with your spouse, with whoever, about what's going on from here. Now, moving this along. Whenever we get into the evening time, I'm going to get this to 10:30. It's just past 1, but it's at the start of the other, so this is perfect. Between 8 and 10 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to hit a trine to Uranus, Earth to Earth. Between 11 and 1 a.m., so this is one of those things that are going to be a part of the overnight carryover hours, the moon is going to hit a trine to Jupiter. Now, with the moon's trine to Uranus, this is one of those things that like you're working through something, you're going through the paperwork, you're going through documents, and you come across something unexpected. You hear something unexpected. You're scrolling on Facebook, you're going through something, and you hear some exciting, unanticipated, unexpected news. It's shocking to you, not shocking to them. Again, April's full of changes for everybody. And that shocking element is something that's very, very, on par with everything. So there can be some unexpected energy. But whenever you add in the trine to Jupiter, and we have this whole Jupiter-Uranus vibe still taking us forth with new patterns and new energy and new things moving forward, the moon's trine to Jupiter gives us guidance. Like, did you see what Sally posted? Did you see that thing on Facebook? Did you see? Oh, yeah. That's been going on for a while. It's not new. Everything's cool. It's going to be good. They're going in a new direction. They're going to this new company. They're starting a new brokerage. They're doing this thing. Yeah, it's good. It'll be good. It'll be great moving forward because we're getting that guidance. We're getting that extra bit of oomph. We're overcoming something, and we can be learning unexpectedly about something that is coming to a close, about a new thing that's about to begin. We have this dynamic change because while at the same time we have the moon's trine to Jupiter, you also understand that this is also whenever Mars is making its final little trek through the sign of Pisces. So the unexpected news can be a part of something that is, again, coming to a close or a new beginning, depending on how people want to word their stuff, moving forward, because we have a lot of new that's meant to come through this week. Now, again, the moon's trine to Jupiter, we feel it even on the 30th. So for some people, there's late night conversations with certain people where you're getting guidance from another person, or you're the Jupiter person giving guidance to another person. So be aware that there's something about guidance and hope and faith and things that talk to our spirituality. We need to get certain amounts of information from certain people about how we can progress from here. And for some people, it is about a closeout. It is about something being done for the last time. For other people, it's going to be about how something goes and starts from here. Okay. I'm going to get this into the morning time. We're going to get this at 8:30. Yes. Okay. Between 7:30 and 9:30, we've got the moon making a sextile to Neptune. There is still an element of fogginess. There is still an element of confusion going into this morning. Not everybody's anticipating everything. And I said Monday and Tuesday, we've got some people that are going to feel like a fish out of water. But as Tuesday progresses, I do not feel like we will stay the fish out of water situation. So be aware of that. Not everybody, it's going to be amount of confusion. For some people, you're going to be learning about something that you didn't know. You're going to be correcting some type of confusion and making people aware of certain things. And the whole idea is that we are trying to get guidance as to the new trajectory and the new path that we're about to go into. And that new path speaks to the fact that after the moon sextiles Neptune, the moon will sextile Mars, and these two will change signs together. So I'm going to bump this to 10:30, show you that. Here's the moon, 29 degrees. Here's Mars, 29 degrees. The moon is going to go into Aquarius at 10:20 a.m. So I bump this another hour. The moon's going to be in Aquarius. Mars is going to enter Aries at 10:33 a.m. So they change signs within 15 minutes of each other. It's like we go into an office, we go into a space, we go into a meeting, being a little confused about what the conversation is going to be like. But it's like you go into the meeting, the boss has called you in, asking for you to come in first thing in the morning. You come in thinking that you're in trouble or something. And then as you sit down talking to the boss, they're like, all right, great. This is your new trainee. Oh, I'm not in trouble. Okay, cool. Okay. Wow, great. You're with me. And the moon and Mars and their sextiles moving into this new direction, it was just like we wrapped our head around something. We figured something out. We got out of the fog really fast. And now we're going, okay. And we start to move into long-term energy. We start to move our trajectory. The moon goes into Aquarius, fixed sign, the things that have been established for a long period of time, energy that's been going on for a long period of time. Mars at 10:33, so I'm going to bump this an hour. We'll just go to 11:30. Mars is going to go into its domicile. Mars is going to go into Aries. And Mars is going to, in many ways, solidify everything that has been shaken up throughout the Aries transits. And you got to think Mercury has been in Aries since around March 10th. Mercury's still here. So we have a lot of energy from the last 2 months that's going to start to get solidified. Because again, we're slowly building into a new foundation. So we're going to have some pressure tests in some ways, but we're also going to have like pivotal moments of making sure the foundation of the new energy and all of the changes can be solid. And that starts to speak through once Mars goes into Aries. It's an energy that's going to take all month, all of May. I know it's still April at this moment, but be aware of that. Okay. Now, I'm going to bump this to 1:30 and leave it alone. And I'm going to explain two energies that are going on simultaneously. One, between 12 and 2 p.m., the moon is going to square Venus. Between 1 and 3 p.m., the moon is going to conjoin Pluto. We're at the happy little medium. The moon's just past the square with Venus. The moon's almost into the conjunction with Pluto. We're close enough for government work. The actual Pluto square to Venus will go exact later in the evening. So I feel like whatever starts to happen after Mars goes into Aries, after the moon goes into Aquarius, that again, if we had confusion in the morning, we had something that didn't make sense in the morning, fogginess, something that was unclear, something that we just did not understand, that once we get in the afternoon, we are no longer the fish out of water. We are now the fish that's been dropped into an aquarium. We're in a much bigger bowl at this moment. And we're going to start to recognize the change. We're going to recognize certain dynamics in regards to past fears, and we are going to feel like we can overcome them, that we are going to feeling like we can move forward in a whole different progression from here. And there is something about like addressing the way something looks, but also addressing how things have been in the past, where we go from here, how we are overcoming certain things. And there is something about Venus's square to Pluto that feels like it is really helping us do that final step in addressing whatever trauma and fear and emotions got triggered in the full moon's energy, the full moon in Scorpio the week before, or it is really pushing forward how we move forward from here in our new dynamic, in our new power, in our new strength. And there's something about Tuesday that really just feels like it is solidifying so much energy and making us aware of what is setting in. Now, again, the moon's energy here of us talking about the past, talking about frustration, how we're going to heal from here, what we're going to do from here, what's going to change, what's going to be the same. This is all in this energy. The actual square between Pluto and Venus goes the most exact between 11:26 and 11:45 p.m. So I get this at 11:30 and you can see the exact. Here's Pluto, 2 degrees, 6 minutes. Here's Venus, 2 degrees, 6 minutes. Here we are. After Venus's square to Pluto, over the next 2 days of us solidifying and understanding this new normal and recognizing the new pattern and accepting the new vibration, fear will start to fall away, because after this square, Pluto is going to go retrograde. It's not at this exact moment, but it is over the next 2 days. That as we are progressing into the new territory, fear, frustration, the past, the trauma, the abuse will start to slowly fall away. Okay, moving this along. We're going to get into Wednesday. It's the 1st of May. Hello, May. It's going to be May. We're going to keep it going. We're going to get to the earlier morning between 5:30 and 7:30 a.m. So I got this at 7:30. The moon is going to square the sun. This is the last quarter moon. And this is happening in the fixed sign energy. We're going to start building into the new moon in Taurus. That's not happening this week, but we start building towards it now. We are starting to set in and solidify certain energies that we're winding down. What got spiked and brought to the surface in the full moon, we have a better understanding of it now. We are overcoming a lot of that energy now. Venus is going to help us really solidify a lot of that. And this quarter moon also speaks to how we're going to have certain energies start to wind down from here. So it speaks even more to whatever we are starting to make progress in building is going to solidify into something that's going to be the long term. There can be the addressing and questioning of like people's intentions in the mundane sense of whenever the moon hits the square to the sun, like, how do you want to do this? Tell me about yourself, something about your identity, something about your personality, somebody wanting to have an emotional understanding. And again, with Venus still going through that square to Pluto, that emotional understanding does not have to be negative. Tell me about where you were just working. Tell me about the past situation. Tell me about your old job. Tell me about the old boyfriend. Tell me about something. And the more you start to talk about it, you tell a little bit, you reveal a little bit, but you also reveal like, I'm just feeling much better just being in a different situation. And sometimes that's all you need to say, just to be clear. Wednesday's not heavy. And I feel like for a lot of people, Wednesday is going to be a carryover of the energies of whatever was going on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So that would be the human effect of like, we have some carryover energy. Don't expect a whole lot of things to happen on Wednesday. We get into the afternoon between 3:30 and 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. The moon is going to sextile Mercury. The moon is in the fixed energy, something that's been going on It's still in Saturn sign, and we're getting an awareness. We're talking about more, where there's a voicing of what we want to do from here. There's some guidance, there's some information, there's some orders given as to like what we desire, what we need, and what is going to happen moving forward. Okay, I've had a few days to wrap my head around a situation. Starting tomorrow, we're going to start doing this. We're going to move in this way. We're going to start doing these things. We're going to have this extra thing moving forward. Energetically, this is not the only transit that speaks to something setting in as to how we move forward from here. There's one other here, and it was exact at 7:30, and that is whenever the moon goes through a contra-ANTISCIA with Neptune. Now we are starting this week in an actual Mars-Neptune conjunction. Just a few days later, 4 or 5 days later, Mars is going to go through the contra-ANTISCIA. So it's the secret conjunction. We fold the charts at the solstice line, at the equinox lines, and we start to get these equal equations. What do we have? We have another conjunction between Mars and Neptune. But now we have Mars in its own home sign. Recent energies, recent inspirations, recent uncoverings, recent medicines, the recent energy of whatever has been coming through with Neptune. Now we are acting upon it. Not all of us are going to be taking action right at 7:30 at night. Some people will have some late night actions, and that actually goes more exact transit wise once we get into Thursday. In this moment, it's not necessarily all happening in the most action oriented energy, but just be aware that we are much, much closer to taking certain actions in a direction based off of this energy here. Even if nothing actually happens in the physical moment, if it's all internalized energy, that internalized energy can feel inspirational, it can feel motivational, but it can also feel like an extra flood of the senses that is pushing into a motivation. So be aware of this. If you have some random ass energy hitting you late on Wednesday, going into Thursday, do not be surprised, because this is a big part of it. If you are energetically sensitive and you're still trying to get a better handle of that, many energetically sensitive people, you are going to feel this. And be aware of what you were feeling Sunday and Monday during the Mars-Neptune actual conjunction, because it's feeding into this right here. Okay, moving along, we're going to get into Thursday. Now, remember what I said before. We can have some late night things going on Wednesday going into Thursday, because the first transits are happening right after midnight. So between 12 a.m. and 2 a.m., the moon is going to square Uranus. The moon is in Uranus's sign, squaring Uranus. So in some ways, there can be some unexpected communication, but we're trying to learn about something based off of somebody else's experience. We're trying to understand of the way something has been done in the past, and who you're hearing from, you might not be anticipating. You can have those sudden energetic waves hit your chest of like excitement and like that boost in your adrenaline all of a sudden, and you're having a hard time sleeping and you don't know what it is. This is that. Now, the human effect is, just because you feel this energy and it's keeping you up at night does not mean that it's necessarily going to have the events happen at this moment. The human effect is it can actually happen throughout the day. And you can have your phone on do not disturb, not knowing that you're getting some kind of communication until you wake up the next morning. For some people, all of what I'm talking about right now will not happen until the next morning because of the other factors at hand. Now, keep moving this forward. The moon is going to square Jupiter. Now, that is going to be felt between 3:30 and 5:30 a.m. So I got this at 4:30. Here's the moon, 24 degrees, 27 minutes. Here's Jupiter, 24 degrees, 26 minutes. It's real close. It's basically exact. So we can have something unexpected the night before that pushes us in another direction. If you have a negative reaction to medicine, I'm not letting up on that one based off of that Mars, Neptune, contra-ANTISCIA, then that can leave you, like, push you unexpectedly towards going to the doctor, going to the hospital, going to the ER in the middle of the night. I'm fair warning people about that. not knowing what's going on. We need somebody else's acknowledgement. We need some additional experience. The moon square to Jupiter can literally be the person that's giving you the guidance, giving you the ideas, giving you some additional information. Not everybody is going to be in the need for additional information, but considering the Mars Neptune energy has so much that can feed through Jupiter, I need people to be aware of that. If we are again having a negative reaction to something, having something happening in the body, a sudden hit of adrenaline, don't be surprised. That can happen based off the Mars Neptune's energy. Now, the human effect is not all of us are going to be going to the ER in the middle of the night. And some of us, as the day progresses, we will have some type of information, news, results. If you've recently had scans or something from the doctor, you get some type of result and some type of news. And I feel like a lot of people can hear that in the morning going into the middle of the day. Why do I say that? Because this is whenever Pluto is going to turn retrograde. The moon is in Aquarius. Pluto is in Aquarius. The moon starts with squares to Uranus, then Jupiter. While we're going through the rest of the day, the moon is going to be technically void. So whatever that happens for a moon Uranus, moon Jupiter kind of sets the stage for the rest of the day. And at 12:48 p.m. Central Standard Time, so just after lunch, Pluto is going to turn retrograde. So I got this at 12:30. You can still see Pluto is direct. We bumped this one more hour. Pluto is now retrograde. If over the last few weeks of April, you had medical scans or somebody in your family had medical scans and you haven't got your results yet, please anticipate the results of the first part of this week. And I feel like a lot of people are going to have those results by Thursday. And again, it can either be something based off of the Venus-Pluto square that helps us overcome a fear, or it is going to set in a fear. I don't feel like so many people are going to have fear set in, but the human effect is that is a possibility. But once Pluto turns retrograde, we're hitting a peak of fear. We are hitting a peak of change. We're hitting a peak of struggle. We're hitting a peak of power, empowerment. Wherever you are at, some of you are feeling really empowered. Some of you are struggling. It really depends on where you're at. But Pluto is hitting a peak of that energy. And how we progress from here is meant to, again, help us alleviate the trauma, move away from the fear, move away from the past, and move into a new direction, and understanding what we need to do in treatments, understanding how we move forward in our new commitments, in our new path, in our new routine, in our new direction. And by the time Pluto turns retrograde, we are far more aware of that new direction and what it's going to mean for us this week. Okay. At 1:52 p.m., so right after Pluto turns retrograde, the moon's going to go into Pisces. Now, water signs. Whenever I compare Pisces to any body of water, I always compare it to the ocean. We can either feel really, really good and healing and hopeful once the moon goes into Pisces, or if that fear got triggered with Pluto turning retrograde, we can have the other side of the emotions. And again, an immediate response to something we need to process, that we need to heal, that we need to emotionally work through over the next few days. And once the moon goes into Pisces, we're going to be aware of that. Between 8:30 and 10:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, so we got this 9:30, the moon in Pisces is going to sextile Venus. We're talking about the recent changes. We're talking about the recent uncovering. Venus is still separating from her square to Pluto. The moon was a part of that square to Pluto by having the conjunction. We have something that is either recently confirmed, or we're getting more acknowledgement as to the progression of the new direction that we're going into. Just to be clear, this isn't heavy energy. It's a check-in. It's getting an understanding. It's hearing the news. If something negative has come through the last few days, if something positive has come through the last few days, we're getting perspective when we're getting the news. Okay. Friday's not intense. It's not. Again, I feel like a lot of people need to process some things. Now, in the overnight hours of Friday, between 3:59 and 4:30 a.m., so I'm just going to move this to 4:30. Pluto is going to sextile Mars, and you can see this right here. But Pluto is now retrograde. So the actions we're moving forward with Mars being direct is to help overcome a situation. It is to create better understanding about not being tied to a situation. Something has been confirmed. Now we are being even more solidified in our new path and in our new direction. So be aware of whatever the energy has been tied to Pluto this week, because our actions and our reactions are going to set in after the sextile, and even more so after the moon gets out of Pisces. But the moon's going to be in Pisces all day on Friday, so we're not in that energy. If you are feeling emotionally triggered throughout the day on Friday, do not be surprised. If you feel like people are not moving fast and they're just trying to understand something. Again, some people feel like they've started this week as a fish out of water, and now they're literally thrown into an aquarium, and they're still trying to understand their boundaries and their surroundings. So don't anticipate like big forms of reaction out of certain people. I don't think we're going to get them on Friday. Okay, moving this along. Between 12 and 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, so when I get this to 1:30, the moon is going to sextile the sun. Checking on somebody, talking about what somebody's doing, learning from somebody that's been doing something for a long time, talking about recent changes. The moon in Pisces, the sun is in Taurus, so it's the more set in stone energy. It's like, this is how we've done it forever. This is the way this is going. This is the way things are done this way. The moon going through Pisces is like, okay, I get it. I'm taking notes. I'm learning. I'm understanding. Not heavy. You can feel overwhelmed, emotionally overwhelmed, because you're in the new energy, and I get that. But it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It doesn't have to be heavy until we get into the evening time. Now, for some people, once we get into the evening time, it can get a little bit heavier. And that comes between 5 and 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. I went too far. So I got this at 6:30. Between 5 and 7, the moon is going to make a conjunction to Saturn. You can see that right here. Saturn, it is responsibility. It is the authority figure. It is the elder. And it is having that conversation with the elder, with an authority figure. You could be ending your work week, talking to your new boss, getting a feel of like how your week went. You can be getting home at the end of the week and like having dinner with somebody and talking about role changes and responsibilities and the weight of something, the heaviness of like, I didn't know by so-and-so leaving just how much I was going to end up having to deal with. I didn't know what was going to fall on my plate. I didn't know that how much responsibility was going to be there. For some of us, we just need guidance from somebody. So we're going to somebody that we see as an authority figure, as we see as somebody that understands more than us, and we're just getting their input. The good, the bad, the ugly. For some people, if this week has gone in a negative sense, you're having negative news from the elder, about the elder. And it can go either way. Slow moving energy. Moving this along. We're going to get into Saturday. Now, in the overnight hours of Friday going into Saturday, there can be some things that kind of come through based off of these middle of the night transits. So between 2:30 and 4:30 a.m., the moon is going to sextile Uranus. Between 6:30 and 8:30 a.m. So I'm just going to bump these together because these tend to feed into one another because of how close the two planets are. So I'm going to go ahead and bump this forward. The moon is going to sextile Jupiter. We're going to feel that the most between 6:30 and 8:30 a.m. You could have an unexpected phone call in the middle of the night. You can have some kind of unexpected communication. Doesn't have to be heavy. You can have some kind of email coming through that you don't see until the next morning, and the next morning you're giving guidance on what to do. You have an understanding of how to fix something. Given the moon is in Jupiter's sign, there is a level of like guidance with Jupiter's energy, giving hope, giving faith, helpful energy. This is how you fix it. This is what you do. This is how we go from here. This is what I used to do. Doesn't have to be heavy. Giving some level of emotional guidance. Now, as the day progresses, the moon is going to hit a conjunction to Neptune. And that's going to happen roughly between 1 and 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I get this at 2:30. Here's the moon. Here's Neptune, 29 degrees. Now, here's the deal. Over the course of the day on the 4th, Neptune has hit 29 degrees. This is new energy for Neptune. Neptune has not been at 29 degrees in our lifetime. It has not. This is new territory. We're getting new information. We're looking into new things. We're dealing with new things, new areas of confusion. Let's talk about some of the things that have gone on this week. If you have had a new job, you can be getting to the end of the week and you're trying to learn more about what you do not know. If you've had some of the medical things coming through, you can be starting to research the new diagnoses and the treatments and the things that are coming through. And this moon Neptune is like trying to understand something that we don't know. Not everybody's in that vibe. Some people are just enjoying themselves. And some people might get to this part of Saturday going, I just want to do something fun that I would not normally do. And I want to go somewhere I've never been before and just experience it. Go to the Ren Fair. There's a new movie in theaters and you want to go see this movie. I'll be honest, I haven't been to the movie theaters like more than twice since COVID. So even go to a movie theater for me right now is an experience. But there could be something that we want to do that we've never done before that is meant to distract us from the rest of the energy, to help us overcome where things have been cloudy. Some of us just want to do something that gets us out of the funk, and we need something to help us heal. Some of us are just going to get to Saturday and we're going to want to do nothing but sit and watch Netflix all day long, whatever the new show is. I don't know that a lot of people are going to feel like they can be productive at this time. I feel like a lot of people need to get to the weekend and kind of veg out, whether that's physically or mentally. This feels like for a lot more people, a mental veg out energy. And it doesn't have to be terrible. Okay. At 3:41 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon's going to go into Aries. I feel like a lot of people, after they've done something different, gone somewhere new, did this thing they wouldn't normally do, that it helps them break out of the funk. So if you want to do something you've never done before, I don't blame you. Break out of that funk. Do that new thing. It will be helpful for you. And it'll help you get a better understanding of what you need to do from here. Now, between 6:30 and 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, Pluto is going to sextile the moon. Between 8:30 and 10:30, so I'm going to bump this another hour, the moon is going to hit this conjunction to Mars. What happened the days before, whenever Pluto and Mars hit their exact sextile, and what motivations set in as to like how we progress from here and let go of something from the past, let go of a past situation. This can be the next layer of that, or this can be telling somebody about a recent situation that they were not aware of and bringing them into your motivation from here. This can also be something very disruptive. We've had a lot of emotional triggers the last few days. You learn about a change and then you go talk to somebody and it turns into an argument. I'll be honest, the moon's in Aries, Mars in Aries, Mercury's in Aries. We can reach a point that all of a sudden something happens and we're having tension and we are having arguments. That is a big possibility in the conjunction. Does it happen all the time? Not necessarily, but whenever you're putting all of this emphasis on Aries and knowing that we've had so many triggers of change this last week, sometimes the emotional processing is I just need to veg out and do something and cry it out and do the Netflix thing, and I want to do it this way. But then the other side of us is some people needs to yell about it. We need to scream, shout, yell, feel frustrated. Sometimes we need to go out and do a physical activity. And this can be the physical activity energy of like, I need to take this action to get myself out of this funk. Whether it is the fun energy from earlier or a more pivotal or chaotic disruptive energy into the evening. I feel like a lot of people with Saturday, we need to process and then get out of the funk. Because again, we're only allowed to be sad for so long. There's something about this, about how we're going to get out of the funk from here. Now, this can set an energy as to what's going to happen on Sunday. But whenever it comes to the energy after the moon's conjunction to Mars, not a whole lot going on. And even going into Sunday, there's not a whole lot going on. We're going to get into the afternoon and we'll get the one and only transit per se that is going to be about Sunday. And that's going to go the most exact between 4 and 6 p.m. The moon is going to make a conjunction to the North Node. Whatever gets set up the day before with a moon Mars conjunction, we can get really determined, feel very, very motivated and driven to do something, to take an action, to go in a very specific direction. Some of us will have motivation to just physically do some things around the house, get some things caught up, to do a bunch of things in a certain way whenever it comes to the elements of Sunday. But not all of us are going to be taking actions on Sunday. Some people will be taking more actions going into the next week. But whenever the moon hits the conjunction to the North Node, this is something setting into our mind. This is an alignment type of energy of our desires and our motivations and where we're going from here. Now that Mars is in Aries, we're definitely feeling very motivated and determined, and like things are going into a certain direction. And we are either really in tune with that alignment and feeling very empowered, or we feel the disruption and the chaos and the frustration, and the mental energy can be very, very overwhelming, depending on how you are dealing and responding to the energies at play. But based off of a lot of the transits that's going on, outer planets and inner planets, yes, we are getting to a peak based off of Pluto turning retrograde. But in the long run, a lot of the other planets with Saturn, Neptune, Mars, like everybody else, we are getting to new developments, new anticipation, new direction to how we overcome old situations, things that weren't working well before, things that weren't necessarily completely connected and correct before. And given so much energy from the week, Sunday can be a carryover for a lot of people. And at the same time, Sunday can just be where we can finally get some things accomplished because we don't have a whole lot of things draining us. So that's a good thing. Now, I want to talk about in this closing a pattern of something that I was not anticipating with the Mars-Neptune conjunction. I feel like I should have, but I really didn't. But I've been clear with a lot of you that the last 2 weeks of April, I was blocked going into a lot of the forecasting. And you can usually tell the difference with me whenever I'm blocked and when I'm not. And I had started to say it back around like the 20th. I said, like, from this point forward, a lot of these transits I'm blocked on. I was very blocked last week. I was very blocked the week before because I knew whatever was meant to be uncovered needed to be uncovered the natural way and not just me trying to figure it out. So if I get blocked, I just know like, okay, well, it's supposed to happen this way in a specific dynamic, and I'm just not going to worry about it until it hits. Whatever. The universe does what it wants to do. In the last 2 weeks of April, getting closer and closer between Mars's conjunction to Saturn specifically, and the closer Mars got to Neptune, I saw a pattern. And many of you, what I explain next, you're not going to recognize this pattern. But others of you, this is going to explain something to you, and you're not even going to know why until I put the timelines together. I saw a pattern of certain things from the last Mars retrograde timeline coming back full circle. And some of what got disrupted and some of what needed to be healed was specific to a prior wound and a prior trauma that goes back to either the end of 2022 or the beginning of 2023. And a lot of that has to do with Mars and Neptune. Mars entered Gemini in August of 2022. The last Mars-Neptune conjunction before the one that we're going through right now was actually May. Yes, May of 2022, late April going into May. Mars entered Gemini in August of 2022, was direct all the way until like October 30th, turned retrograde. We went through an eclipse season and a Mars retrograde simultaneously. Oh, that was fun for those that remember that timeline. Was retrograde all the way until the first 2 weeks of January. January turned direct, stayed in Gemini until March. And in that timeline of Mars in Gemini had 3 squares to Neptune. The first one happened in early October. The second one occurred in November. The third and final one hit in March. And some of you will hear me say that timeline and go, oh my God, I totally remember what I had going on in my life. And there was something from that time point that is coming back around. Something from Mars and Gemini's time span that is coming back full circle, that has recently been scraped and brought to the surface because it is either the thing that we need to heal, because something from that timeline was very traumatic, abusive, something that was disruptive and not in the fun way, something that created a lot of tension and pressure in our lives from that timeline. That while Mars was getting closer to its transit conjunction to Neptune, and again, that's going exact at the time that I'm recording this, so Sunday going into Monday, which is a big portion of what's setting in part of this next week. And some of the actions and reactions that we're about to go into can actually correspond back to what has been brought up from that timeline. Now, not all of you are going to remember that timeline. Not all of you are going to have something in specific from then come back up to the surface and come back to light where you're like, oh, because too many other things have happened since then. And I get that. But I seen, whether it was watching a pattern of things in the news, some very raw, specific things that happened with my family, the situations within my clients, and even my own personal self, knowing that some of what got set into motion during that time, whether it was the pre-retrograde, so the shadow phase, so the pre-shadow phase, the actual retrograde, or the post-shadow phase, there are certain elements from then that were being brought back up in this full moon in Scorpio, in the conjunction to Neptune. And it is a part of whatever we're meant to be healing from, whatever we're meant to overcome, wherever we're going to start moving and reacting to from here. The actions and the reactions, that level of movement from here. I had said previously that Mars's conjunction to Saturn was going to enforce a certain amount of accountability. And the human effect is that accountability came through at different times in different ways based off of the other transits that were going on. They weren't all specific to the Mars-Neptune conjunction. They haven't been all specific to the Mars-Saturn conjunction. It's the human effect is like it comes through at different times. And that's why you always hear me say these like continuous patterns in those transits, because the human effect is what can be a breakup day for one person might not be the same breakup day for another person. What could be a profoundly defining day for one person might not be the same for another person. So that's why I always try to take into connection that human effect. Part of that timeline was meant to come back now because something that had been traumatizing, something that was very disruptive, something that, took the wool out from underneath us, so to speak, that rug energy, the rug pull energy, whatever that was. Now we're going to start to see solutions, rectification, and a certain amount of definition from that also feeds into what is solidifying now. And for some people, that's not going to make any sense at all. And I get that. But for others, it will make a lot of sense. And we will remember certain things from that timeline. And if you don't remember right now, go back through your phone, go through those photos, go through your social media posts. You can usually find something, go to your calendar, go to your emails, go to your journals, whatever you do, and remember parts of that timeline. Because whatever has come back, it's because whatever we were looking for at the time, we were looking in the wrong place. We were getting misled. We didn't have all the right information. People got caught lying. And there's a level of accountability now that's going to start to come through in the actions and reactions moving forward. It is going to be a part of the treatments moving forward. It is going to feed into the levels of that routine and what we're building from here moving forward. Our focus is meant to shift. That doesn't mean whatever we were dealing with at that time wasn't important, but it wasn't everything. And I'll be honest, I'll use myself for an example and part of that March of 2023, that's when I started this podcast, because whenever I was in February, getting closer and closer to all the Pisces transits, what kept coming through my meditation was like head down, mouth shut. Because whatever starts to happen to people around you, you don't need to be involved in a lot of it. But at the same time, I knew I needed to give guidance. So the best thing that made sense to me was the podcast. Don't get involved, not your pig, not your farm. But at the same time, people needed to be aware of like how to work with the energy. And that was literally the whole reason why I started doing the podcast. I was able to start helping people in a whole different way of being able to explain the energies as I was picking them up on. And as you can see, like a lot of you have like come into the channel since then. You've been a part of the growing process. You've been sharing me with a lot of your people. And I sincerely appreciate that. And I know that this channel is about to like grow a lot over these next few months. And that's going to be interesting for me. But I'm using myself as a way to explain that timeline in the positive sense. I had negative things during that time too. But I know that part of that dynamic is also what has come through in regards to since the full moon in Scorpio, because I'm a Scorpio rising. Yeah. Okay. So we are meant to move in a different direction. We are meant to act and react upon certain things that have recently been triggered. And some of us will get new information. the other parts of certain information. We'll get new confirmations this week to help us as we go forward from here, and who we are connecting with from here, and what the routine is from here. Not all of you are going to be able to make the past timeline connection, and that's okay. But it was so dominant to me, I could not ignore it. So to help people understand some of the old wounds and old triggers that have been brought up, or to give a better timeline as to like when some of the struggles that we're moving away from really energetically started to kick in, I think there's a timeline here that we weren't necessarily all looking for. So I hope that helps. I hope every episode helps. But if you had something from a very specific timeline that has come back through, that was the big one that I seen. But there, you could have another timeline, and you could have other questions. And if that's the case, you book your one-on-ones. But the whole idea is whenever I pick on something that big, I make sure people are aware of it and I talk about it. So there's that. All right. I love and appreciate every single one of you. I will talk to everybody